Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions talk. It is Sunday. We are about a month out from the NFL draft, and we have a lot to talk about today. Now, as people start to get in here, of course, I would like everybody to comment just so I know who's in here. I know who's out and just watching the stream. Rob Swift is the first one to comment today saying hashtag Motown Malik, and I'm sure we'll get into that at some point today. But what I wanted to start off with was taking a step back from the draft and taking a look at free agency, because I think the way the Lions have structured their free agency so far is going to give us a very good insight on how the draft is going to go in April. Kool-Aid and Cornbread says, what is up? Not a whole lot, just hanging out here, ready to talk some Lions football with you guys. And like I said, I really wanted to take a look at the free agency market so far and look at their free agency signings, because there is a pretty clear pattern at this point that I think could maybe not guarantee what the Lions are going to do with the number 2 overall pick, but I think could heavily influence what they're going to do at number 2 and for the remainder of the NFL draft. So with that being the case, I have the Lions offseason additions pulled up. And as you can see, the Lions have not signed a ton of people. But as a lot of us know, going into the offseason, the Lions had a couple of key positions that needed to be addressed. Wide receiver, linebacker, and the safety position. Now, the Detroit Lions have definitely addressed the wide receiver position. I still believe they will draft a wide receiver, as I still believe that there is room for improvement in that wide receiver room, but they have certainly improved it from where it was a season ago, right? The starters as of right now, going over to the depth chart, look like Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark, and Josh Reynolds as your top 3, with Khalif Raymond and Quintez Cephas as your primary backups. Though that's not a bad receiving group as of right now. That is, a decent starting 5. But I think if you add a 6th, whether that be, a George Pickens, a Christian Watson, a Jahan Dotson if he's there at 32 or 34, or, somebody maybe even later in the draft class, I think adding one more guy, one more legit starting caliber player could be really, really beneficial to the Lions wide receiver room. But again, DJ Chark's a former Pro Bowler. Amon-Ra was getting votes for the Pro Bowl a season ago. Josh Reynolds played very well down the stretch a season ago. Quintez Cephas was having a pretty good season of his own right before he got hurt. And Khalif Raymond is a pretty good deep threat if they can get him the football. So the wide receiver core isn't too bad based on the re-signings and the free agency market. And the linebacker position, I also think, is in a very similar situation. The linebacking core is certainly better than it was at the beginning of the offseason. The linebacking core has certainly improved with the signings of Chris Board, who I believe is the primary replacement for Jalen Reeves-Maybin, and Jared Davis returning to Detroit. I love that they added the in parentheses again on this signing, but Jared Davis returns to Detroit as the starting linebacker, or a potential starting linebacker. And at this point, the Lions linebacking core, where at the beginning of the offseason, it was just Derek Barnes and Anthony Pittman on this roster. Now you have Alex Anzalone, who returned, who was a really good captain for the Lions a season ago. Derek Barnes, who I believe will start next season in replacement of Jalen Reeves-Maybin. You have Jared Davis, who I also think could start over Alex Anzalone. I think that him and Derek Barnes are the most talented linebackers on the roster. And then you have Anthony Pittman. Austin Bryant, I think, is more of an edge rusher. I think he's more the primary backup to Romeo Okwara. And I think, he's not really a linebacker, not really a Sam linebacker, but that's not really the point of this right here. So they've addressed linebacker, and they have addressed the wide receiver position, 2 of the biggest position of needs in the offseason. But what they have yet to address is the safety position, right? The other 2 players, right? Garrett Griffin, I don't even really know what this signing is. I mean, it's just depth for the tight end position, I suppose. And then Mike Hughes, the cornerback, which I also think was a good addition because now your cornerbacks are Amani, Jeff Okudah, AJ Parker, Mike Hughes, Jerry Jacobs, and Ifeatu Melifonwu. That's a pretty good starting 6 cornerbacks. If you want to add one more, you can, but I don't think you have to. I think that Will Harris could step in at cornerback as your 7 if you really need that 7th cornerback. So I think cornerback is also, pretty set in stone as of right now. And, going even through the free agent resigns. Josh Woods, the linebacker, returns, who I didn't actually see on here, but did start a game versus Denver a season ago and played really well. Josh Reynolds resigned, the wide receiver. They did resign CJ Moore, but he's more of a special teams player. They did resign Jalen Elliott, but again, more of a special teams guy. They brought back Alex Anzalone at linebacker. They brought back Sean Dion Hamilton at linebacker. They brought back Khalif Raymond. They brought back Charles Harris. They brought back Tracy Walker. And although Tracy Walker is a safety, and although they brought back Tracy Walker and Jalen Elliott and CJ Moore, they don't have a lot of starting caliber safety power on the Detroit Lions. As of right now, the safety position for the Detroit Lions looks like Tracy Walker, Will Harris, Jalen Elliott. Oh, you can't see Tracy Walker. My apologies. Looks like Tracy Walker, Will Harris, Jalen Elliott, CJ Moore, Brady Breeze, and JJ Hughes. One of these players, I believe, would start in the NFL on any other team. I think Will Harris would be a sub-package, either Sam linebacker or Will backer or a strong safety in rotation. But other than Tracy Walker, I don't think anybody else starts, let alone sees the field, or sees the field, let alone starts on another roster. And safety is the only position the Detroit Lions have yet to seriously address outside of re-signing the guys that are in the building already. Now, Scott Smith says, hello, fellow Lionhearts. Kevin Burrows says, I think the lack of free safety signings might say something about where we're heading with that first pick. That was what I was getting to. I believe that Kyle Hamilton will be the 2nd overall pick in the NFL draft if he is not taken by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Because based off of what they've done so far, linebacker can absolutely still be addressed, but I don't feel like it's a super devastating weakness anymore. Wide receiver can certainly still be upgraded, but I think that room of 5 of Reynolds and St. Brown, Shark, Cephas, and Raymond, that's a solid starting 5 that Jared Goff can absolutely work with and can absolutely put up numbers with. But this safety core is not a very good one. And I think they can not only sign a free agent at this point, but I think they could draft at least 1, if not 2 safeties in this NFL draft class. Trade back and go Matt Corral. That's of course an option. I have been seeing and drafting Aiden Hutchinson at 2 lately and Treylon Burks at 32, Ed Chad Muma at 34, and you're beginning a great draft class. I don't disagree. I don't think Aiden Hutchinson will be at number 2. I think Aiden Hutchinson will be the number 1 pick in this year's NFL draft class. Like, that's just personally how I see it. I think that he will be the number 1 pick. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars could potentially still go with an offensive lineman. But as of right now, I think Aiden Hutchinson will be the number 1 overall pick. Now, as Don Burr saying, people overlook Kayvon as the number 1 pick to the Jags. I don't know about Kayvon Thibodeaux just because, like, the NFL media seems to be, like, hammering home this idea of, like, okay, teams are kind of turning their heads a little bit because of his off-the-field stuff, right? Because he didn't do combine workouts, because of this narrative that he's a lazy player. I don't personally see that. And if I were the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't know what I would take because personally, I'm not familiar enough with the Jacksonville roster in order to say whether they need a more run stopper or more of a pass rusher. But I think Aiden Hutchinson is the much safer player for the number 1 overall pick. I think he's a better, well-rounded player, and he's certainly a better run defender. They already have a not a top tier, like not a top 5, but I'd say they have a top 10 to 15 outside linebacker / edge rusher in Josh Allen. And I think Aiden Hutchinson fits that team a little bit better, in my opinion, but that is very true. Kayvon could go number 2 or go number 1. Hey, right or wrong, I hope you're all as well. Enjoy the pick at 32. Hey, enjoy that Super Bowl payout time. I think Reynolds was a very good signing. I think the best true ball hawking safety in this class is Kirby Joseph, and we can get him at 66. Add Leo Chanel, and we will be well on our way. I mean, maybe as far as ball hawking safety, but I think the best all around safety and the best all around player in this class is Kyle Hamilton. And although I think there's obviously going to be a faster safety than Kyle Hamilton. His 40 times have not been impressive, but he is coming off of an injury in that combine one. Like we talked about, he swerved a little bit, so he added a little bit more yardage to cover. But I'm not worried about anything Kyle Hamilton has. I don't see a red flag in Kyle Hamilton's game like I do in every other prospect. Don Burr says you can get a safety at 34 or 66. I agree. I think you can. But I just feel like Brad Holmes has addressed every position but the safety position. And I think the biggest need right now happens to coincide with the best player in the draft class for the Detroit Lions. What about Brisker at 32? Brisker's absolutely an option at 32. But if you're the Lions right now looking at this roster, I don't think any player impacts the defense like Kyle Hamilton would. Because let's just say, for argument's sake, right, we take Kayvon Thibodeau. If we take Kayvon Thibodeau at number 2, and I'm going to assume Aiden Hutchinson's gone in this scenario. So for those of you that like Aiden more than KT, we're going to assume Hutchinson goes 1, and we're going to assume that Kayvon Thibodeau is the number 2 overall pick. Romeo Okwara would still start. I truly believe Romeo Okwara would absolutely start still. And then Charles Harris would likely get bumped to that second defensive end and will likely be more of a rotational guy. And I think that could work. I think that would give you 3 really good rotating players that, you can keep everybody fresh. You can keep everybody going. I think that would not be a poor move by the Detroit Lions. I would like that move. And I think if we draft KT, I think it's a good move. Same thing with Aiden Hutchinson. You kind of bump Charles Harris back to that 3rd edge rusher position, and you rotate the 3 to keep everybody fresh and continuing to put relentless pressure on the quarterback. You add that with Aleem McNeil. I would hope Levi Onwuzurike can take a big step and maybe even start over Michael Brockers next year. It's not a bad defensive line, right? You get a lot of pressure from your edge rushers. You have 3 really talented edge rushers, right? A guy that had a 10-sack season 2 years ago and was, leading the team in pressures. I believe was averaging like 6 to 7 pressures a game, maybe more than that in his first couple of games before he got hurt in Romeo Okwara. You have Julian Okwara, who I had like a 16% pass rush win rate a season ago, which is really good in limited snaps. Austin Bryant had a career year a season ago. Aleem McNeil was a first-team all-rookie. Charles Harris had 7.5 sacks, right? You add Kayvon Thibodeau. That's a really, really good defensive line right there for the Lions, which I think would fit the Brad Holmes mantra. Same thing with, you rotate KT with Aiden Hutchinson. Either one of those I think would slide in and be huge for the defense. But I think that this unit can survive. I think that these edge rushers, I think that a defensive line of Romeo Okwara, Julian Okwara, Charles Harris, Aleem McNeil, Michael Brockers, and Levi Onwuzurike can survive without Kayvon Thibodeau, can survive without Aiden Hutchinson. And I think you can afford to wait for a Boye Mafa or an Arnold Ibiketi or even a Drake Jackson if you want more of a Julian Okwara mold than necessarily a Romeo Okwara mold, right? A smaller, faster, more athletic outside linebacker type than a traditional like 3-4 edge rusher or 4-3 edge rusher. I think that edge rusher could help the Lions. But if you draft Kayvon Thibodeau, he's going to be a rotational guy, right? Because you have to rotate Romeo Okwara, Julian Okwara, and Charles Harrison. You just have to. They're too good for you not to. Whereas if you were to draft Kyle Hamilton, and I'm aware, safety at 2 is risky. I understand that. Safety should be addressed late first round, early second. I get that argument as well. Do you believe in Jared Goff as a starter? I do believe in Jared Goff as a starter. I think he was good down the stretch, and I'm very curious to see what he can do with Ben Johnson and DJ Chark and Amon-Ra St. Brown, like fully being available at the beginning of the season, other than just the end. But yeah, I do believe in Jared Goff as a starter. But at the same time, I think Kyle Hamilton would be a bigger impact because Kyle Hamilton will play every snap at the safety position. And I think a safety duo of Tracy Walker, who I think is one of the most underrated safeties in the league right now, and Kyle Hamilton, the generational talent, the unicorn of this draft class, I believe that duo would help the Detroit Lions more than Kayvon Thibodeau. And I believe that duo would help the Detroit Lions more so than Aiden Hutchinson. I really feel as though the pick will be Kyle Hamilton because he's the best player in the draft. He's the only quote-unquote generational talent from this year's class. And it's at the biggest position of need. If nothing else, the Lions will absolutely address the safety in the first round. But if you're going to address the safety in the first round, the drop from Kyle Hamilton to the next guy is pretty significant. Not that this safety class isn't good because there's a lot of good safeties in this class, right? Kyle Hamilton just happens to be the best. But like Jaquan Brisker's really good. I think Lewis Sine, I think is his name, out of Georgia is pretty good. There's some late round guys that I really like. But there's only one Kyle Hamilton. And like I mentioned before when talking about Kyle Hamilton, safety is an overlooked position in my opinion because safety can make a lot of different things happen. And, when they interviewed Brady and Manning about like who their toughest players were, it was Ed Reed and it was Troy Polamalu. It wasn't Lawrence Taylor. It wasn't, Von Miller. It wasn't Aaron Donald. It was arguably the two best safeties to ever play the game. And I think Kyle Hamilton has that kind of ceiling. These Brad Holmes signings have no effect on what we do in the draft. No signing is significant enough to pass on any player in the draft if your board sees a stud at that position. I don't think that's true because I mean, these signings absolutely have an impact, right? You're no longer in the market for a cornerback because you're 6-7 deep at this point because of the Mike Hughes signing, right? Chris Board is your primary Jalen Reeves-Maben. You no longer need a special teams linebacker at the end of the draft, right? Jared Davis is a potential starter. Your need for linebacker is now lesser than it was when you didn't have Jared Davis. Now, if we trade back, you absolutely go with Hamilton, but at 2, it has to be. Why does it have to be an edge rusher? Why? Other than positional value, tell me why you need an edge rusher more than a safety. Tell me why KT is better than Kyle Hamilton without the argument of positional value. Because the Lions, at the end of the day, if you want to talk about positional value, the Lions' biggest position of need is safety. And if you have the opportunity to draft the best safety to come out since maybe Ed Reed, since maybe Sean Taylor, and that position is your biggest position of need, why would you not address that pick, especially in a draft class where Boye Mafa exists, where Drake Jackson exists, where Arnold Ebiketie exists at the end of the first round? Just because you draft Kyle Hamilton does not mean you cannot get a safety. And I believe that you can scheme up pressures more than you can scheme up coverages, right? Because you can rotate coverages, but you can't scheme up interceptions. You can't scheme up an elite ball hawking safety. You need that talent. You can scheme up blitzes, right? You can blitz Jared Davis. You can, have stunts with Julian Okwara. You can formulate pressure in the same way that you can formulate separation on the offensive side of the ball. But you can't gimmick your way into a top safety because at the end of the day, your safety needs to be talented if you want him to be good. And you do need good edge rushers, but the Lions have a solid defensive line as of right now. And I'm not saying completely ignore the defensive line. I'm not saying don't ever draft an edge rusher. But if you're sitting at 2 and it's between a questionable Kayvon Thibodeau and a home run, almost guaranteed home run hit in Kyle Hamilton, barring injuries, right? Barring, an unforeseen injury in the NFL, Kyle Hamilton has a higher ceiling and a higher floor at his position than Kayvon Thibodeau has at his. All well, brother, sending good vibes your way. Is another 6'4" safety who is going to be available in the middle of the draft. He's talented and only needs good coaching. I mean, I get that. Like, but it's not necessarily the size for me. It's the playmaking ability. It's the speed. It's the instincts. It's the tackling ability. Kyle Hamilton has no red flags. I have yet to see a red flag on tape or watching him run drills to say this guy has a flaw. Like, I've yet to see a red flag. He's a good leader. He was a leader at Notre Dame. He has the production at college. He has the size, the speed, the range, the IQ, the tackling ability. There is no flaw in Kyle Hamilton's game. Like, every once in a while, he might take a bad angle, but that's about it. And that was only a couple reps in multiple games worth of tape. Remember, Sean McVay kicked his Super Bowl quarterback out the door without a second thought. He did that for a reason. Home would be foolish not to seriously consider a quarterback with a trade back or trade up. I mean, it wasn't so much. I want to see how I want to word this. Jared Goff, I don't believe, is a Super Bowl quarterback. I don't believe Jared Goff can win a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback, but we're not working for a Super Bowl next year. We're working for improvement, and we're working to build a roster, not win a Super Bowl. So unless you get really good value, why would you force yourself to take a quarterback? Now, consideration's one thing. If you're saying like, okay, if Malik Willis falls to X pick and we have the ammunition to move up and get him, he can be our Super Bowl quarterback. At that point, I get it. But I don't think forcing yourself to take a quarterback is what the Lions need, because the Lions don't need a quarterback. Would a quarterback be nice? Probably. I mean, yeah, sure, it'd be nice to have a quarterback, but they're not really forced to take one, because at this point, they're not really contending for a Super Bowl. You're definitely in the market for any positioning. Yeah, positioning. Chris Hughes are the only. I mean, yeah, but you can re-sign those guys, and as of right now, you don't need them anymore in this year's draft because you have them for next year. And if they don't work out, Chris Board and Mike Hughes would be very easy to replace in free agency, because they're not going to be big role players on the team, even if they stay long term. An edge rusher is far more valuable than a safety because they can stop the big plays from happening. Again, without the argument of positional value, why is Kyle Hamilton a worse player than Kayvon Thibodeaux? Because again, you can scheme up pressures, and the Lions have some pretty good defensive line talents. They have very little safety talent. That's just the reality of the situation. We should double up at linebacker. That I don't disagree with. Now, I don't know, like, first round, unless it's Kyle Hamilton, unless it's Nakobe Dean, I wouldn't draft a linebacker in the first round. But if you're talking like second, third round, like, I think a second, third round linebacker would be good. And then maybe like a fourth or fifth round linebacker, maybe not like back to back, but doubling up at linebacker is not a bad idea. I like that idea a lot. I put a small bet on Kyle Hamilton being the second pick. 100 gets you 400. I think that might make you some money, Kool-Aid and Cornbread. And if you want, you can send a little of that money over to me. I'm just kidding, of course. Safeties can also stop big plays. That's also true. If you have a ball hawking safety, it limits the big play down the field. And I think the best example of that would be the 2013 Seattle Seahawks, right? The Legion of Boom was not known for its pass rush. I honestly cannot name you a pass rusher from the Legion of Boom era. But what I can name you is Richard Sherman, is Cam Chancellor, is Earl Thomas, is, I believe, Braxton Browner is his name, who played opposite of Richard Sherman. The secondary made that team. The secondary limited big plays. Earl Thomas eliminated everything over the top, and they made teams work underneath until they were impatient, and they forced those teams to go over the top. Now, I'm very aware that this was Matt Patricia's ideal system. It was his ideal scheme. But Matt Patricia's scheme was just flawed in a lot of other ways. Building your secondary and building an elite secondary is not a bad thing when you have decent pass rush. And I think that's what the Lions have. They have decent pass rush. They were, I want to say, top 15, top 12 in pressures a season ago. So it's not like they were bad. They weren't bottom of the NFL, right? They were okay. And if you draft Kyle Hamilton, that forces the quarterback to hold out of that ball a half a second, a tick, make him take that extra prep step or that extra, I can't even think of the word, but just forcing him to take that extra step, forcing him to, just take that extra second to think and look off the safety, that's going to equal more sacks. Now, Scott Smith says the Okwara brothers are always injured. That is not necessarily true. Julian Okwara, I believe, only missed 4 games a season ago, which was not, bad at all. Julian Okwara has suffered with injuries his first game. He played in 13 games, so he missed 5 games a season ago. And he had 5 sacks in 1 start. Romeo Okwara was pretty good a season ago. Like, if you can get 13 games out of an edge rusher, that's not very bad. And then Romeo Okwara, I believe, has had a pretty clean bill of health for his entire career, apart from 2017 and 2021. He played 16 games in 2020, played 14 games in 2019, 15 games in 2018. Romeo Okwara has been very much available to the Detroit Lions for his entire time in Detroit, except for last season. So that is not true. Thoughts on the Trayvon Walker having a highest odds to be drafted? I think Trayvon Walker's a really good player. I think Trayvon Walker's absolutely in the mix. But again, just like Kyle Ham, or just like Kayvon Thibodeau, just like Aiden Hutchinson, I think that Trayvon Walker positionally is going to be less valuable than Kyle Hamilton. At this point, Brad Holmes is playing it perfectly. I don't think nobody has an idea who Brad Holmes will select, which is great. I also think that's a good thing. I think him, kind of putting out rumors, right? The rumor recently has gone, the rumor recently has been like, okay, Malik Willis could be their guy. At times it was Kyle Hamilton. At times it was Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, the newest rumor to come up is that the Detroit Lions might even take an offensive tackle with the number 2 overall pick, which I would be very much not okay with. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's just a rumor. Walker is the odds-on favorite at number 2. That is true, but we're still a month away, and those odds have changed numerous times already. It doesn't have to be Thibodeau. How about Walker from Oregon? I don't know what Walker from Oregon you are talking about, but the Walker we're all talking about is from Georgia. How about Johnson from FSU? Maybe Devin Lloyd from Utah. Yeah. I mean, Johnson. I don't think Johnson would be at number 2. He's my 4th edge rusher in the class behind KT Hutchinson and Trayvon Walker. But Johnson's my 4 as of right now. And you might even get David Ajabo in the 2nd round if you're the Lions, just because of that Achilles injury, which I know the Achilles injury is scary, but they do expect him to make almost 100% full recovery. If I remember, they expect him to be, okay by training camp. We have a month to the draft. There will be 3 or 4 favorites until then. Yeah, absolutely. Goff was terrible first half of last season, good in a few games. Jared Goff, I'd say was bad for 4 games. I would say was mediocre for 3 or 4, and then he was pretty good the last 7 games of the season. Like I said, I've gone over this before. But Jared Goff, I think his season was kind of blown out of proportion for being, quote unquote, a bad season. Because, yeah, San Francisco, threw 3 touchdowns. But, at the end of the day, that was not a great game by Jared Goff. Statistically, it might have been good. But all those stats came at the end of the game. It wasn't a great game for him. Not a horrible game, but that pick 6 was really, really bad. Green Bay was bad. Baltimore, he was okay. Chicago, he was bad. Even though stats say otherwise, he was pretty bad in Chicago. He was okay against Minnesota. He was really bad against Cincinnati. He was okay against LA, was horrible against Philly, was horrible against Pittsburgh, was decent against Chicago, was good against Minnesota, was okay against Denver, was really good versus Arizona, and really good versus Green Bay. So I would say he had 3 games of, like, I'd say top tier quarterback play, like top, 12, borderline top 10 player quarterback of that week. I would say, the Chicago game, he was good. He wasn't great, but he was good, right? Had 1, 2, 3 games of over 100 passer rating, had 4 games over 100 passer rating, a couple of games in the 90s. There was only really a couple of games. Minnesota, his passer rating was low. Cincinnati, his passer rating was low. Philadelphia, I'm kind of surprised was that high. But, like, he wasn't a bad quarterback. Like, the team did not succeed, but Jared Goff was not the sole reason why this team was not very good. He was fine. He wasn't terrible. He was just mediocre. And, I think a lot of Lions fans were used to Matthew Stafford being much, much better. I think Lions fans didn't quite realize how good Matthew Stafford was, because Matthew Stafford was a top 10 quarterback in Detroit. And when Jared Goff didn't play like that, a lot of Lions fans got answered. You just answered my question. Have you seen what it costs to move up for a quarterback? That's a lot of draft capital, multi-years worth of capital. For what? For what? Are we taking – I mean, we wouldn't have to move up for a quarterback because Jacksonville's not taking a quarterback. So I guess I'm a little confused what you're talking about. How about Walker from Georgia or Johnson from FSU? Yeah, again, I think I answered this earlier. But yeah, no, I mean, they're all good players, but I'd only take Walker at number 2. I'm not taking Devin Lloyd at number 2. I'm definitely not taking Jermaine Johnson. Cliff Averill. Okay, Cliff Averill was an average pass rusher with the Legion of Boom. But that Legion of Boom team is not known for its pass rush. It's known for its secondary and its turnovers. So yeah, sure. Okay, Cliff Averill. But Cliff Averill was not like an elite edge rusher. Only Kirby Joseph at 66 is a true ball hawking safety in this draft who has at least 5 picks per year. I mean, okay, yeah, but I mean, he's a good safety. I'm not saying he's not a good safety, but at number 2, as I said, I don't think there's anybody as impactful as Kyle Hamilton. Brad Holmes' philosophy is not replacing guys in free agency. It's building through the draft. You can count on one hand how many free agents he signed to longer than 1-year deals. Harris just got his 2 years. Yeah. I mean, no, you can probably count on 2 hands because Romeo got 1, Jamal Williams got 1, Charles Harris got 1, Tracy Walker got 1. Jared Goff restructured, but he traded for Jared Goff. So, I mean, we can count that technically, but we don't have to. Let's see. Who else? I'm pretty sure there was a 2-year guy a season ago other than Jamal Williams, but I'm not entirely sure. So, I mean, yeah. In an offseason and a half, he has 4 guys that he signed multiple year offers to. But if those guys produced, like Romeo and Tracy and Harris did, then they get multi-year deals. Chark, I think, can get a multi-year deal if he plays well. Davis can get a multi-year deal. Board can get a multi-year deal, as can Mike Hughes. You don't sign them to big contracts when they haven't proven anything, but once they have proven something, Brad Holmes has shown that he is willing to give out multi-year deals. Once he knows how you fit on the team and once he knows what you can do for the team, he has shown that he is willing to sign you to a multi-year contract. So I think that philosophy is like, okay, he only wants to replace guys. No, he wants to find the best player at the position. And yet he might want to go through the draft because that's easier, that has less contract negotiations, it's a little safer as far as like longevity. But at the end of the day, if you produce on the team, Brad Holmes will give you a contract and Brad Holmes will sign you to a long-term deal. I like Matt Corral and Willis for quarterback, but not looking for a quarterback in this draft. If I were to think Corral and Willis in the second round looks good, I mean, I don't think Willis falls anywhere outside the top 10, to be totally honest. Matt Corral, I think, has probably won't fall out of the first round. But if he does, I think it's definitely an option. I think it's definitely a conversation you need to have if you're the Lions. It's a double-bladed answer. A good edge rusher will make a quarterback into bad decisions, leading to more picks. That is true, But like I said earlier, you can scheme up pressures better than you can scheme up turnovers in coverage. So if I were to say, okay, I get this great edge rusher who makes our pass rush better, but Will Harris is my starting strong safety, they're just going to throw it at Will Harris because Will Harris is honestly not all that good. But if we have Kyle Hamilton and I say, okay, well, I come in with Romeo Okwara and Charles Harris, who less than a year apart, right, in the last 2 years, each of them have at least won 7.5 sack season. Romeo Okwara probably would have had at least 7.5, if not more sacks if he were healthy this year. And I can scheme up more pressures with guys like Julian and Austin Bryant and Jared Davis now as a blitzing linebacker. I'm taking the talent that I can't scheme up over the talent that I can scheme up. What quarterbacks are in next year's draft class? I mean, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud will probably go 1 and 2, which I don't think the Lions will be in a position to get either one of those guys. Spencer Rattler's in next year's draft, who is pretty, I mean, he's up and down. He's definitely got a high ceiling. But as far as like attitude and turnover problems, I'm not a big fan. I know a lot of people like Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. I believe the kid from Wake Forest is eligible next season as well, who put up big numbers at Wake Forest. That's maybe it. I don't remember the entire draft class off the top of my head right now. I mean, I can go look it up. The draft. I mean, we can go look. I don't think it's a super like loaded class though either. I mean, there's a couple good guys at the top, but like if you're sitting, I don't know, 10 or below, like you're not really gonna get a great quarter. It's not like 6 quarterbacks deep, if that makes sense. Yeah, quarterback Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Spencer Rattler, Hendon Hooker is a pretty good quarterback. I like him a lot out of Tennessee. I don't know a lot about Phil Jerfich. I'm not even gonna try. I don't know much about this guy, these two. I know Brendan Armstrong is okay. Anthony Richardson, I've seen is okay. Jaden Daniels, I don't really know a lot. I think that's supposed to be. Oh no, JT Daniels is next year. I like JT Daniels a lot. Grayson McCall. So like, there's some good quarterbacks. Bo Nix is coming out, as is Malik Cunningham and Tulia Tagovailoa. DJ Uiagalelei is coming out next season. So, I mean, I'd say it's a better quarterback class next year. Spencer Sanders is coming out, who's, an interesting gimmick player. So, I mean, there is some quarterbacks next year to take for sure. I mean, it's not like it's a dry quarterback class. I'd say next year's class is probably better than this year's class for sure, though. Yeah, there you go. OT rumors. I agree. I think OT rumors absolutely is smokescreen because at this point, I don't know who you'd replace on the offensive line because you're not going to replace Decker. You're obviously not going to replace Ragnow. Jonah Jackson just made it to a Pro Bowl. Penei Sewell is amazing and was your number 1 pick a season ago. And Big V did not allow a single sack last season while being a really good run blocker with Penei Sewell, who, I mean, those two have a great chemistry on the offensive line together. If you're the Lions, I don't know who you'd even replace on the offensive line. And I know people, like, I've heard this argument. It's like, okay, well, injuries. Okay, well, why would you draft the offensive backup with your number 2 overall pick when you have needs at edge rusher and safety and wide receiver and linebacker and, I mean, any position you could really think of outside of like tight end? Not even that. You can draft a tight end. Offensive line is the only position the Detroit Lions do not need to address this offseason. And I'd say running back probably too, but they can even get a running back late. Cam Akers came back strong from the same injury. Yeah, he did. And I mean, that's becoming more and more common now is like players can come back from injuries that in like years and years ago would have been a lot more severe. You can get really good safety later in the draft. You can also get really good edge rushers later in the draft. You can absolutely get defensive ends later in the draft. I'll go to 2022 right now. I'll go 2022 draft class. I'll tell you all the edge rushers that I bet you will start in the NFL next season. Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Trayvon Walker, Jermaine Johnson. I don't like George Karlaftis. I'm not a big fan of him. What I saw, I did not like. David Ojabo, I bet will start. Boye Mafa, I bet will start. Arnold Ebiketie will start. Drake Jackson will probably start in the NFL. Maja Sanders will probably start in the NFL. Some of these guys are going to be more rotational guys, but that I bet as far as like full-time starting players, I bet you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 edge rushers in this class that I think year one will be starting players and will get significant playing time. You look over to the safety position, Kyle Hamilton, of course. I think Daxton Hill's more of a slot, a nickel cornerback, a small nickel. But I think he can play safety, so I'll count him. So 2, Lewis Sign, I think is 3. Jaquan Brisker, Jalen Petrie. I don't really like Kirby Joseph or Brian Cook. Nick Cross, I think, would be rotational. Verone McKinley, Smoke Monday. Like JT Woods, I think, is really good. Bubba Bolden, I think, is really good. But as far as like safeties that I believe will start in the secondary this season, in any secondary, it's probably Kyle Hamilton, Dax Hill, Lewis Sign, Jaquan Brisker, maybe Jalen Petrie. So that's 5 safeties, maybe 6 safeties if one probably breaks out versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edge rushers that might go in the first round alone. Boye Mafa will go in the second. Arnold will go in the second. Drake Jackson will go in the second. Maja Sanders will go late second, early third. Tariq Smith is okay. There's a lot more depth at edge rusher than there is at safety in this class. Lynn was the problem after he got fired. The entire offense played better. That is also 100% true. I just saw a comment I'll get to in a second from Don Burr. That's a lot of bad games. He should be a stopgap for drafting a quarterback this year. Not really. I mean, Jared Goff, I'd say, had like 3 to 4 bad games, like 3 to 4 games where I felt like Jared Goff was the difference between winning and losing, and it wasn't the winning side of the game. But he also had 2 games that I felt like if he was not there, we don't win that game, being the Minnesota win and the Green Bay win. I wouldn't say Cam Akers came back strong. He wasn't the same Cam Akers we saw at the end of 2020. I mean, he was good. He had fumbling issues for sure. But, I mean, he was really good coming out. And he came back a little early, I think. I think he's fully recovered, but I don't think he was, like, necessarily 100%. And if anything, he certainly wasn't 100% conditioned by the playoffs, right? He came back a little early, wanted to get into the playoff run, wanted to contribute to the team. I believe that was more due to his like conditioning, and I don't think he was necessarily like in full playing shape yet when he returned to the Rams. And I think next year you're going to see him being much better. Goff is Goff. This is the most accurate comment I think I've ever seen. Jared Goff is Jared Goff. You know what he is. He's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He'll win you some football games, and he'll lose you some football games. He's Jared Goff. Like that is the perfect way to describe Jared Goff. I don't believe in Goff, never have since he was drafted. Didn't understand why the Lions got him, because Jared Goff is probably the best quarterback they could have gotten in return for Matthew Stafford. He's a bridge quarterback. He's not brought here to win Super Bowls. He wasn't brought here to, lead this team. He was brought here to be Jared Goff. Cam Akers returned to the field, but he didn't return to full form, in my opinion. Maybe with a full offseason, he'll be back to 100%, but until then, the jury is still out. Like I said, I think this had more to do with him not quite 100% being in like game shape yet, because again, he was in physical therapy. He was, retraining his arm, or his leg, his knee. And although it was fully healed, I don't believe he was 100% conditioned yet for NFL play, which is why, you necessarily didn't see the greatest play out of him. And not to mention, I mean, when you come back and your first game is a wild card versus Tampa Bay, and your second game is, the NFC Championship versus the San Francisco 49ers, and then your third game of the season is the Super Bowl versus the best team in the AFC. Like, it's not that hard, not that far-fetched to believe that, okay, this guy might have, maybe not been in the best. Now, Lage78 with the donation, $5 donation, says, do you think Lions trade back at 32? I believe they can get 2 or 3 picks later in the draft. If they do, I think trading back at 32 is absolutely an option, because over the last couple of years, we've seen a couple times where different teams, right, they want to sneak into that last first-round spot. They want that fifth-year option. They're not too far away right? Like the best example I would say is like Baltimore. Baltimore was a couple picks into the second round, and they were like, okay, we want our quarterback, but we want a fifth-year option on him. So, we want a fifth-year option on him. So I'll put this up on the screen. We want a fifth-year option on Lamar Jackson, so we're going to trade up. They didn't give up a ton. I believe they give up 2 to 3 picks, like you're saying. I think it's definitely possible. I think that 32nd spot, although it's, a lot of people would say it's a glorified second-round pick, it holds value because of the fifth-year option. And I think that fifth-year option could be a reason as to why it's valuable to certain teams coming into, exiting the first round, in my opinion. That answered your question. Going back up, Kool-Aid Incorporated, I really hope that some teams fall in love with a quarterback and will pay. I hope so too. But like I kind of mentioned this in another video. Okay, I'll explain. Brad Holmes passes on a quarterback this year, falls in love with a prospect this year or next. I plan the Lions getting better, hence trading into the top 5 is very expensive. I don't know what scenario you're trying to explain. Are you trying to explain why the Lions should take a quarterback in this year's class? I'm a little confused. I'm following what you're saying. I don't understand the scenario we're putting this into, this hypothetical. Are you going to the draft this year? I mean, if they ask me to go, I'll go. But as of right now, I don't believe so. I haven't been told that I'm going to the draft. I mean, if the Lions want me to go, I'll go. Like, I had a good time. I'll go with now another pick. I had a lot of fun. It was a great experience, but I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. Jaden Daniels from LSU. I like Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is somebody that I thought might come out in this year's class and be a mid-round quarterback option. And I think a year at LSU could be really good. Again, just playing more competition, right? You're going to get to see him against Alabama. You're going to get to see him against Georgia. You're going to get to see him against Auburn. It's going to be a good test. I think if Jaden Daniels can step up, I'm excited to see what he can do. I really am. I think he can generate some first round buzz if he has a good year at LSU. We need to try trading 2 and 32 for 5 and 7. That I think is way too much value for the Giants to give up. I really do. I really, really do. Watch Holmes draft Kenny Pickett. At this point, nothing would surprise me with Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes has his own plan. Brad Holmes knows what he wants to do, and Brad Holmes is doing Brad Holmes things. Tyler Van Dyke, Miami quarterback, will shoot up the draft boards quickly. I don't know much I think that's for next year, right? Because I think the only Miami quarterback this year is De'Aaron King. So, yeah, next year it's definitely possible. I don't know enough about him, but for his sake, I hope you're right. Noting is promised Willis at number 2 is the right pick. I mean, it's possible. I like Malik Willis. I'm actually a big fan of Malik Willis. And if the Lions take Malik Willis at 2, I won't be upset. I'm going to have to check him out, Don. You've mentioned Van Dyke a few times now. Yeah, I'll have to check him out too. I don't know much about him, but I'm definitely curious to look at him. Any position on this team can be touched except Penei Sewell, maybe St. Brown. Any position can be touched on the team? I mean, no, not really. If you're saying the only people that can't be removed are St. Brown and Penei Sewell, that's just not true. Because Frank Ragnow's not going anywhere. Jonah Jackson's not going anywhere. Taylor Decker's not going anywhere. St. Brown's not going anywhere if they can help it. Neither is TJ Hawkinson, I don't believe. I don't believe they'll move on from Tracy Walker anytime soon. I don't believe they'll move on from Amani Oruwariye or Derek Barnes or Julian Okwara anytime soon, nor Aleem McNeil or Charles Harris. There's a lot of guys that have solidified spots on this team. I like him, Joey. Not as mobile, but can move around. Did I miss? I feel like I missed something. Maybe not. Maybe you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, Donber, but I hope. I don't know. You get the guy. The rush is the quarter. You get the guy. The rush is the quarterback. You don't spend it on a safety, i.e. Jeff Okudah. Jeff Okudah is a cornerback. And Jeff Okudah played really well in his first game, despite what a lot of people would have you believe. And Jeff Okuda has been injured, so it's not even fair to even really say that about him. Hoping the Lions land Maffa. I think he's a really good option for the bottom of the second or bottom of the first, early in the second. Ajabo won't be starting this coming year because he injured himself, but will be worth a pick if we trade down around 40 because he may be able to play by November at the earliest. I don't remember what they said. I want to say I read an article saying that he was expected to be like not necessarily like fully healthy, but like as far as like playing like on the field, recovery time. I want to say they were like, okay, he'll be ready to at least participate by training camp, but maybe not. Ajabo looms over his pro day. Yeah, he's gonna be out obviously for the NFL draft. Does it have a timeline though? Because when Akers tore his in training camp in return for the Super Bowl, it was about a 6-month gap. So 6 months from right now is September. So, I mean, I think that timeline's pretty accurate. I'd say around November, he should be like fully healthy, ready to go again, which is only a month into the season, right? That still leaves him with potentially 12 games, 14 games to play, depending on I'd say that leaves him with 12, 13 games to play realistically, depending on the bye week, of course. Mafe at 34. Mafe at 34 would be a really good value pick, in my opinion. I just want my QB to be able to scramble on a 3rd and long and get the first down. Gardner Minshew and Aaron Rodgers are mobile enough for me. Yeah, I think anything Aaron Rodgers or above, I think is a good metric for where you want your quarterback to be as far as mobility. Aaron Rodgers obviously not going to be like a Lamar Jackson. He's not going to scramble for a bunch of plays, but he's mobile enough to move around the backfield. He's mobile enough to move around the pocket and to create plays with his legs despite not passing the line of scrimmage. Because mobile doesn't necessarily mean like mobile doesn't necessarily mean like past the line of scrimmage. For me, mobile quarterbacks can, move around in the backfield, right? Tom Brady, I wouldn't say he's a mobile quarterback because he more manipulated it with like his eyes and like stepping up into it. Whereas like Aaron Rodgers will legitimately run around like behind the line of scrimmage. So will I'm trying to think of another good example. Like the Aaron Rodgers level of mobility, I think is like the minimum of where you want to be for a quarterback. Where were we? We were right here. Watching Matt Corral, I don't get how some consider him. I don't know why they consider him the number 1, but I see the potential and why they like him. Really, the Green Bay game, really the last game of the year when Green Bay mailed it in, they definitely did not. Green Bay was trying to win that game. Jordan Love was trying to win a spot. That team was trying to win the game. Matt LaFleur was not trying to lose. And that narrative is wrong if you think so. This would be a good top 3. Kyle Hamilton, linebacker at 32. I would hope Nakobe Dean. But it's always possible that everything else. And then DN like Boye Mafa, I think, or Drake Jackson, I think would be good. I think that'd be a good starting 3 for sure as your draft class. Trey Williams, edge rush from Arkansas, is underrated. I think his pro day will start some games. I think I like him. I think he'll be a good rotational guy. I don't think he'll necessarily start, but I think he'll get some good time. I think he'll rotate in on some different packages for whatever team ends up getting him. We could start the draft edge, linebacker, wide receiver, safety, linebacker in our first 5 picks. I would not be upset with that. Maybe not in that order, but I would not be upset with that. Like if the Lions open it up with, and I'm going to go through this completely off the top of my head. So if some of these are like, off a little bit positional wise, but just like as a genuine concept, let's say Kyle Hamilton goes 2, that's your safety. Let's say edge at 30. Let's say linebacker Nakobe Dean at 32. I'd say Christian Watson at 34 or George Pickens, either one. That's your wide receiver. I would say, so we got Hamilton, Dean, wide receiver at 34. I would say edge at 66, whether it be Drake Jackson or Arnold Ibiketi. I think both of them will be there. And then linebacker, I would say Channing Tindall or Damone Clark at that like 97, I want to say is our pick. I'd be really, really happy with that. I really would be. Maybe you switch linebacker and edge rusher. So maybe you go like Hamilton and then Boye Mafa at 32, and then Christian Watson, and then your linebacker would be I don't know, but like you know what I'm saying. Like you guys are understanding what I'm saying. I think that could absolutely work for sure. David Ajabo at 32. I wouldn't be mad at 32 at Ajabo. No, Ajabo was going to go top 15 before the injury. I think 32 bumps him like late day one, early day two. If Goff wins a playoff game this year, he's the Lions' best quarterback ever. Definitely not ever, but he's definitely top 5. Willis at 2, Ajabo at 32, Dean at 34. I don't think Dean will be available at 34. But if you were to say Willis at 2, Dean at 32, and Ajabo at 34, I think that's pretty good. Because I don't think Jacksonville's taking an edge rusher at 33 unless they pass on Aiden Hutchinson at number 1, or unless they pass on an edge rusher at 31. So I think Dean at 32 is a little safer. But like the 3 players, I like quite a lot. No worries. Goff is trash and won't win a playoff game. He did it in LA. He did it in LA and beat 2 10-win teams this year. So it's not that far out of the realm of possibility. Imagine if Goff versus Stafford in the first round of the playoffs. That would be crazy. That'd be so much fun. Ajabo is hurt and might never play football again. According to who? Because this quote from David Ajabo that I have on the screen says, "I'm going to be back stronger than ever." So he definitely wants to play football still. And it's about 6 months. The Rams cornerback Cam Akers tore his Achilles last summer and was back in about 6 months. Doctors expect Ajabo to be on the same timeline. He'll definitely play again. Akers just played off the same injury in 6 months. Yeah, absolutely. It's not like if it was a decade ago, maybe. If it was a decade ago, I'd say maybe. But like a year or two ago, Tua Tagovailoa had the same hip injury that ended Bo Jackson's career. Tua Tagovailoa was healthy for week 1. Like injuries and sports medicine is so much better today. It just is. And injuries aren't as severe. Injuries don't really ruin careers anymore unless they're repeating injuries. But like a torn ACL does not ruin a career anymore most of the time, right? A torn Achilles no longer forces you into retirement. You might not always come back at the same level or higher, but sports medicine is at the point where if you tear your Achilles, you can come back and play at a high level and likely be back to where you were before. Traylon Burks hit a 22.6 miles per hour versus Georgia Southern. That's pretty insane. That's pretty crazy. If Traylon Burks falls to 32, I will pound the table so hard. I will pound the table for Traylon Burks because if he's there at 32, that's a steal. I don't think he will be, but if he is, I'll be excited. What about Okudah? I think he's just saying as far as like the recovery. Because Jeff Okudah has been putting a lot of clips out, and like he looks pretty good, pretty explosive so far. I know it's not in pads or anything, but like he's running pretty good. Name one player that returned to previous from an Achilles injury, not just returned, but returned like nothing happened. I don't know anybody, but Cam Akers returned. Cam Akers was good in the playoffs. Like I said, wasn't fully conditioned, played some of the best teams in the NFL, being the Bucs and the Niners back to back, and then played the Bengals after that. Like he was fine. He was good. He'll be good next season. I don't have another example necessarily because I don't know the history of injuries all that well, but I know it can happen. Yeah, but who knows how his Achilles is going to play on turf? The same way it's going to play on grass. Turf and grass are not that different to run on. They are different, but they're not that different. It's not like you can run perfectly on grass and you'll slip and tear your ACL on turf. Like they're similar enough. Did they announce the draft? They were decided Detroit to host. They did not. Detroit, I believe, was in contention for the 2024 draft. And they announced the 2023 draft, a couple days ago. But I think next year's draft is the one that Detroit was like really being rumored to host. But I don't believe they've made that announcement yet. Did you comment again? Oh, you did. Another $5 from Lage. Like I was saying earlier, Lage78 says, if Goff has a good year and is willing to sign a team-friendly deal, he will be quarterback for 4+ years. I believe Jared Goff is under contract for 2 more seasons after this. So he has this season and next season. But I think if Goff, I agree. I think if Goff has a good season, like, I don't want to put numbers on it, but like I'd say if Goff had a 4,000-yard, 30 touchdown, 15 interception season, and he's willing to sign a team-friendly deal, knowing that he's probably going to be a mentor, but like if he's willing to stay here as the backup, I don't know about 4+ years, but I think he can get like a 2-year extension. I think that's pretty reasonable. I heard the quarterback that's from Miami might be draft. It's possible. I don't know for sure. He's not really like a high up there prospect. None of those guys are locks. What guys? I'm not entirely sure. No, Cam Akers was not as efficient or explosive when he returned. Again, he wasn't game conditioned. 0 chance they're drafting Willis. I wouldn't put a 0 on it. Not yet. No, they haven't announced it yet. Lions are sure drafting Malik Willis. I wouldn't say for sure, but I also wouldn't put a 0. Addison Marinelli says, nice hoodie. It's a Michigan Big Ten championship hoodie. Thought some of you might like that. Lions not taking Willis. It's all media hype. There's definitely a chance that they take Willis. They really liked Willis down at the Senior Bowl. I wouldn't put a guarantee on it, but there's definitely a chance. Don, check out Trey Williams. Yeah, he's somebody that I got to do a little more research on myself. I see the real smart Rob Swift is here. Cam Akers caught a couple wide open passes and inflated his stats a bit, but his rushing was not back. Again, that's less to do with injury and more to do with level of competition and playing conditioning. Lions are not stupid enough to take Willis. We'll see. They're definitely not goes against Holmes' whole rebuild, unnecessary risk. Yeah, I think it's definitely a risky pick for sure. Dr. D, what's good? They're trying to dumb team to trading up, dupe a team into trading up. Yeah, I think so too. I'd be surprised if we drafted a Willis type this early in a rebuild. Goff showed viability. Yeah, and that's why I think we'll wait a year. Like we talked about, next year's class is better. There's some good players in next year's class. And I think unless you see a really good value, you don't take a quarterback in this class. I think the Lions take a quarterback, but I'm talking like, right, unless Malik Willis falls to 32, or if like Kenny Pickett somehow falls out of the first round, or like if Matt Corral's there, if Desmond Ritter's there in the 3rd, or Sam Howell's there in the 3rd, then maybe you can take your guy. But I'm not taking a quarterback high. And if I'm the Lions, and this is just based off my personal assessment, I really like Brock Purdy and Cole Kelly as the last flyer pick in the draft, because I think they can win out the backup job from Tim Boyle and David Blau. I really do. We have the same GM now, so we won't make dumb decisions. We have a smart GM now, so we won't make dumb decisions as much as we're used to in the draft. I hope not. Willis is just a smokescreen for a team to trade up at 2. Detroit Lions not taking a quarterback until 23. I think they take a quarterback, but I don't think they take a starting quarterback until 23. I really like E.J. Perry from Brown. He was another guy that I thought looked really good at the combine. He's another player. Where's my mouse? I don't know where he is. Yeah, right here, about 217 range. That might be like back end of the 7th round. He's another guy. I think like a lot of these guys, like Jack Cohn or E.J. Perry or Cole Kelly or Brock Purdy, I think can all win a backup job in Detroit. It's not going to be that hard to beat out Tim Boyle. And the Tim Boyle and David Blau contracts tell me that they are not in love with these guys, but it's safer to have what you know versus not knowing what you're going to get in free agency, which is why they got re-signed. My little brother found a good deal on the used Bronco. Plus, I don't even want Willis. Rather wait till a year or two. Yeah, I'm 100% with that. Y'all are just talking about Dr. Detroit's car right now. I love it. They only put Corral number 1 because he played in the SEC. Yeah, I agree. He's not even number 1 on the board. He's number 3 on the board right now, at least on this one. And from a lot of things, he's like anywhere from 2 to 4 from what I have seen. So you think Jared Davis would be our water boy or equipment handler? I think Jared Davis is a starting linebacker next year. That might be an unpopular opinion, but I think he's the starting linebacker. Have you put a lot of miles on it? I've seen Williams' name a few times. I will check him out. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he's a good player to look at, especially for like a late round guy. Red flag isn't. I thought he was talking about red flags and players. I think it'd be a steal in the late round. I think Clark is hurt. Damone Clark. I'm not sure. I haven't seen any injury news about him. I think he knows about that issue already, but thanks. Okay. I appreciate you guys having this conversation, but it's making it hard to follow football talk. Brad Holmes is going to sign Goff for 5 years. I don't think that's true. Unless he plays like really, really good next year. Goff is a better quarterback than Malik Willis will be in 2 years. If he's developed properly, that is not true. But if Malik Willis stays at where he is, I do agree. Malik Willis is a pure smokescreen. I don't know about pure, but I think it's more smokescreen than anything else. We don't know what Malik Willis gonna be. He not played in an NFL game yet. Again, Malik Willis has great tools. And if Malik Willis develops to his ceiling, he will be worth the number 2 overall pick. But at his floor, like if you're taking just his floor, knowing what you're getting, I would take Malik Willis early second round at his floor. Because even day 1, Malik Willis will make some plays that will wow you. Goff can do more with good weapons. Willis can do more with less weapons. That I think is a true statement. Malik is an NFL bust waiting for someone to fool. Burke at 32. I mean, I've seen it a couple times in mock drafts. I don't think it's super likely, but he didn't have a great combine. Just ran slower than people thought. So I'm not entirely surprised. If I had to stay at a top 3 pick, Willis at 2, Burks at 32, Brisker at 34, but I would really want the Lions to trade back from 32 and 34. I wouldn't touch a Jabo until the 3rd round. I disagree, but how is Malik a bust? He's not played it down. Again, yeah, that's all speculation. This was the donation from earlier that we talked about. Goff will sign a team-friendly deal. Again, thank you so much for the donation. It is very much appreciated. Luke G is in the building, says, I think the Jags go NC State left tackle. That's the other person that I think is possible. I think it's going to be either Aiden Hutchinson or I think it's going to be Ike Mekwanu. One of the two. And I don't know which one's better for the Detroit Lions, but we'll see. But that process will take about 6 to 9 months. But that injury was career-ending for 28% of players analyzed. Yeah, but those 28% of players played decades ago. And players now in 2020, 2021, and 2022 have a much higher recovery rate than players in the 90s and the 80s. The Lions will take Hamilton. I'm right there with you. Eagles got Kazir White for only $5 million. That's why I wanted Kazir White, because I think he would have been really, really good. I hope you are correct, Luke. I hope he's right, too, because that's what I opened the show with. I really hope that happens. That's why I wanted Kazir White. He would have been super, super cheap for the Lions. Somebody commented on a different video, but that's okay. We'll go to that. I'll respond after. I mean, the NFL... irrational things happen at every level of the NFL. I laid out Burks drops at 32, but there would be more surprising things. Yeah, I mean, it's not like the most out there thing that he falls to 32. Like, I wouldn't be super shocked. Goff will not have a good season. I mean, he's had good seasons before. What up, though? Detroit on Big Will. I really like Malik Willis. Is that bad? I mean, you're definitely entitled to your own opinion. I like Malik Willis. If we get Willis, it brings completion to its fullest, and Goff has an MVP season. I think you mean competition, but I don't know. We'll see. I think Thibodeau drops like a rock. I wouldn't be shocked if Thibodeau drops out of the top 10. I wouldn't be shocked if he drops out of the top 5. Top 10, maybe. Some signs that has Devin Lloyd dropping out, or dropping to us at 32, by it being so top wide receiver heavy. It's possible. I don't think Lloyd falls out of the top 20, 25, but again, stranger things have happened. Hutchinson is Max Crosby. Tibb has more upside. Have to take either at 2. I don't think you have to take anybody. Yeah, competition. I got you. Don't even worry about it. Kool-Aid, bro, the kid never took a snap under center, and he was always asked to read a defense, or never. I mean, he was asked to read a defense. That's just not true. Do you realize how hard it is to learn NFL defense? Not easy. This is the complaint with a lot of quarterbacks to ever come out of the NFL draft. Every quarterback at the college level was asked to read a defense. I don't care if you're Trey Lance at the FCS level or Bryce Young, the Heisman winner at Alabama. Every single quarterback at some point in their time has been asked to read has been asked to read a defense. And Malik Willis is no different. Every NFL quarterback, every rookie has to learn how to read an NFL defense. Patrick Mahomes did it. Deshaun Watson did it. Both of them having the same critiques that Malik Willis has. Justin Fields did it. Also had the same critiques as Malik Willis. All of them learned to read NFL defenses, and all of them, I mean, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes especially, but even Justin Fields showed a lot in year 1. Trayvon Walker or Willis, I'm stoked. Definitely possible. Lions won't touch a quarterback. Again, I think they touch a quarterback late. That sounded weird. I think they grab a quarterback late. Like I'm talking, what's the Lions? I'm talking like 217, 234. Like just competition for the backup, because I don't see how the Lions can look at the quarterbacks from a season and go be like, yeah, that's our guy. Like that's our backup quarterback. We trusted this guy to win us games. But again, I think the signing had more to do with like worst case scenario, we know what we have, but best case scenario, we find somebody better in the draft. I don't think the Lions touch anybody until the 200s at quarterback. I don't think they will either, Luke. They signed both backups. Again, I kind of talked about that. The real rebuild doesn't start until the Lions draft a quarterback. That is certainly not true. My nephew could beat out both quarterbacks. That'd be a smokescreen. Blau's contract doesn't have much money tied to it. Neither does Tim Boyle's. They both are only like a couple $1 million at the most. You don't know Cam Akers' inefficiency came from conditioning, stiff competition, or his Achilles. You suspect that it was conditioning and competition, but it might simply be his Achilles. Well, the doctors are saying that his Achilles is 100% healed. So I'm going to trust the doctors that worked with him for 6 months and helped him heal his Achilles. Ritter in the 3rd round would be sweet. I'm not entirely sure about that. Me and Luke said the same thing. That's simply not true. The idea of a real rebuild doesn't start until the quarterback. Yeah, no, because it's starting now. I agree with Luke again. Davis is a starting linebacker. We're on the same page, same wavelength. Should draft Herbert in 2020, but Lions are stupid. Why? They had Matthew Stafford. They didn't need Justin Herbert. They didn't need Herbert because they had Stafford. They did not know Stafford was going to ask for a trade in 2 years. Stafford's a top 10 quarterback. Why would we have drafted Justin Herbert? The jury is still very much out on Cam Akers' Achilles. No, it is not. Doctors say that it is fully healed. I will trust the doctors. Not Dr. Detroit, but I will trust the doctors who worked with Cam Akers. I agree with Luke. The rebuild started, but the timer is not started for Holmes until he gets a quarterback. That I do believe is true. I do think that the verdict on whether this rebuild is successful will start and end with whatever quarterback is taken with whatever pick in whatever round of the particular draft class. I believe the quarterback will make or break this rebuild, but the rebuild has certainly already started. I did not know Damone Clark had spinal surgery. That is very, very scary. Davis and Anzalone. I think that Barnes starts over Alex Anzalone, in my opinion. I feel if we trade down to like 9, we can get a round 1 next year. I also think that could be possible. I also think that's very true. We could get another, leaving us with, I don't think we trade down twice, but I think getting one from Seattle is possible. I'd laugh so hard if AG turns Davis into a quality starter. It would prove how terrible Matt Patricia was. I think you're going to be laughing. Davis will look like a 90-year-old with dementia in the middle of a parking lot. No, Davis is a good linebacker, and Matt Patricia just was not good. Malik 5-11 never took a snap that was not in a shotgun. Neither did Patrick Mahomes in college. Neither did Deshaun Watson in college. Neither did Justin Fields in college. Was never once asked to play or read an NFL-style defense. Again, very few college kids were. It's not true. He was absolutely asked to read defenses. Hamilton at 2. Will we take Kayvon? I think we take Hamilton before Kayvon. Clark got 2 vertebrae fused together. That is concern. I don't know much about that or the recovery time on that, but that sounds pretty serious. If we stay at 2, I want whichever defensive ends are available. If we trade down, Hamilton all the way. Jermaine Johnson over Tibbs and Hutch. No, definitely not. Not true, Anthony. You need to do some research. I did my own research. I didn't look at what the scouts say. I looked at what I saw on film, and I watched Malik Willis read defenses. Not consistently, not often, but I watched Malik Willis read defenses. And I watched Malik Willis at the Senior Bowl read NFL, vanilla NFL for sure, but NFL-style defense is called by NFL coaches. You guys should look at Chris Sims, top 5 QBs, and see what he says about Willis. He says a lot. It says a lot what a lot of us have been saying about, and Sims has been pretty spot on with most players the past couple of years. Sims has corralled QB1. Read a defense. Our old QB Stafford couldn't read a defense. Also not true. That's just not true. I like Sims. What do you say about Malik? I do not know. Sims probably did. That does not surprise me. Let's see. What games have you been watching that Stafford couldn't read defenses? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that one either. That Willis was not that good. The Lions will end like Denver will end like Denver before Wilson. Have all the talent, but the QB play is terrible. Denver got their quarterback, so if the Lions follow suit, then I'm not too worried about it. Go receivers, 2nd pick and 3rd. I don't think we double up at wide receiver because that's just a lot of mouths to feed after signing DJ Chark and re-signing Josh Reynolds. But I think 1 for sure. So doctors have said every player that ever returned from Achilles injuries was 100% healed. So was every doctor just wrong? What are you talking about? No, not every player is ever 100% healed from an Achilles injury. That's just not true. That's just not true. Willis relies on his feet too often. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. Justin Herbert was mostly a shotgun in Oregon. Yeah. Again, Justin Herbert's the same way. Everybody said Justin Herbert could not read a defense. Marlon Mack was 100% healed as well, and we've yet to see him do anything significant. Well, Marlon Mack also has to share carries with Jonathan Taylor, so there's that. Already rumbling. I haven't heard anything about Arden Key yet. Yes, he does because he does read well. Watch. I don't even know what that is supposed to mean. But like I said, he hasn't done a ton, but I've seen Malik Willis break down an offense or break down a defense. JT O'Sullivan broke down Malik Willis and showed that he just can read defenses and runs out of the pocket way too often. That is not the takeaway from that video. I promise you. I watched a lot of those videos too. And he said a lot of good things about Malik Willis that I think everybody is kind of, ignoring and pushing aside. Oh my effing God. Please show me a single season where Davis did anything. Look at his first two seasons. JT O'Sullivan broke down Malik Willis and showed that he just can't. He absolutely did not. That just isn't true. Willis had down year the past season, just like Sam Howell in 2022. Are you going to no, I'm not going to the draft as of right now. Oh yeah, look for sure. Hold on. I gotta remember how to do this. I think I can just copy and I can just send you this link if I do remember, in fact. I just sent you the link, Luke, so if you want to hop on, then I'm more than happy to have you on with us today. Can JG get us through? I don't know. Yeah, for sure. Hop on whenever you're ready. Also, we already have 2 high-value defenders returning from Achilles injuries already. Maybe we should just sit this one out with Ajabo. I mean, that's not the worst suggestion. I'm saying, like, if Ajabo is good value, then I wouldn't be upset with it. Willis must have had 2 down years because the previous year was worse than last year's. Malik Willis, before this college football season, was talked about as the number 1 pick in the NFL draft because he was that good. He led Liberty to being ranked. Like, that's pretty darn impressive. What's up? Tried to collab with you, had all 22 and never got back. Would you still be interested? Yeah, I just been a little busy. I just forgot to comment back. But yeah, absolutely. You told me Cam Akers was 100% healed just a few minutes ago. Yeah, he was. But that doesn't mean every player ever has been 100% healed like you had commented. Willis is a developmental quarterback. He will not start day 1. That is true. And that's what we've all been saying since the jump. He's not a day 1 starting quarterback, but at his ceiling, he could be a great quarterback in the NFL. Can Goff get us through for the first time being? Yeah. I mean, he's good enough to do so. Oh no, here goes one way, Luke G. I love David Ajabo. None of this QBs in the draft are day 1 starters. That is not a wrong take. I don't think any of these guys should or are going to start day 1. Now you're telling me no player ever. I did not say that. I said Cam Akers, the doctors have said, is healed completely, but that does not mean that every player has healed. It has happened, but it doesn't always happen. I never said no player has ever returned from an Achilles injury. I said Cam Akers did it, but not everybody has done it. That is what I said. I appreciate you being balanced on Willis. I just think, Willis has downside for sure, but Willis also has a lot of upside. They're saying Lions have a chance at the playoffs this year. Man, I hope so. I think it's definitely possible. Wide receiver, 2nd pick, cornerback, 3rd pick. Excellent cornerbacks this year. I don't think cornerback. I just don't think it's I don't think it's a priority. The Lions have good cornerbacks. Willis at 34, okay. At 2, I mean, I think it's possible, and I wouldn't be mad at Willis at 2, but he's not my guy at number 2 for sure. Trade down, getting a Kobe Dean and a wide receiver, maybe a safety. I mean, if there's a good trade down option, then sure. but I just don't know what options you're going to see. I just don't know what options you're going to see at number 2 that's going to get you a mid-round pick, right? I mean, if you go like to trades, like what team would be that ideal range? Because like I would guess maybe the Eagles because they have multiple first-round picks. Like this could be linebacker, safety, or linebacker, wide receiver, whatever. But I just don't know what team that would be that you could get a bunch of first-round talent for moving down. I like Jordan Davis if we trade down. That's not a bad idea. I like Jordan Davis quite a bit. 1 interception, 9 passes defended, 10.5 sacks. Those are Davis's 5-year career stats. Sounds like a stellar linebacker. 3 of those years came with, or 2 of those years, 2, 3 of those years came with Matt Patricia. Last year he was injured, so I wouldn't even count last year. You can take off the 25 tackles he had from a season ago. All those came in 4 years with Detroit. Most of them came in a lot of production without Matt Patricia. You're also taking out the 3 fumble recoveries and 7 forced fumbles. So those stats are a little bit skewed. For Lions, want Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. We're not going to be bad enough to get them next year. I agree. Get Willis at 2. That is some opinions. Trading down is not as easy as most would like. And Luke G is on the stream. How you doing, Luke?
Man, look, I'm living my best life. I'm sitting up here listening to you, up here watching dishes, and I was like, where are people coming up with all these false narratives? We as a fan base got to be better than this. We just have to. I'm hearing people make false statements on videos that didn't even say anything. He had 6 parts to Malik Willis. He said a lot of good things about Malik Willis. I'm not even a fan of Malik Willis, but I can admit that he said a lot of good things about Malik Willis. Mm-hmm. He did point out that Malik Willis does not anticipate a single throw.
That is true. I will 100% give you that. He is not great at anticipating.
Yeah, I mean, but this idea that I don't know, it's the false narratives for me. Mm-hmm. That Jared Davis was never been a good linebacker. Based on what?
Well, yeah, that's like what I was saying up here. Like Zach was like, he has 1 interception, 9 passes defended, and 10.5 sacks in 5 years. He didn't play last year because he was hurt. And you're not including the forced fumbles or the fumble recoveries that he got on limited playing time.
But they're also not looking at the fact that he did all that as an interior linebacker.
Yeah, and yeah, it's
like that's all from the inside. They wasn't throwing him on the outside doing this. He was on the inside doing this.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I don't get that. And any person who's watching this can't tell me that Davis doesn't instantly upgrade our linebacking core.
No, he does. He might be the best linebacker in our core.
At this point, he is.
Yeah.
At this point, he is. And that's the ridiculous part of it all. When you have these false narratives being pushed out that just isn't true. Like, it just isn't true. Jared Davis right now is probably our best linebacker. Mm-hmm. We could have got White. I was on the White train from day one. I was on that White. I'm like, listen, let's go get White. He fits what we're doing here. We didn't get him. It is what it is. But I don't get the false narratives. I don't get the push for certain positions. Nothing points to anything that I'm seeing in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of people come up with these generic narratives that best suit what they feel makes sense, and it's nothing behind it. And it's like, yo, we as a fan base gotta be better. We got to be better at being more informed. We got to be better at being and doing our research. We got to be better in understanding what each person brings to our team. We have to just be better. And some of the things like I'm seeing in here don't make sense. It just don't make sense. And I'm just like, look, enough is enough, people. At least try to do their best to be better at identifying these things. It just is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. But since I got you on here, I want your opinion on the Kyle Hamilton debate. What do you think about Kyle Hamilton at 2?
That's who they're taking.
I agree. I think that's the same thing.
I think when you look at the Lions and everybody no, the thing about it is this: everybody gets into YouTube, right? And they want to talk their talk, and I'm like, yes, get into it, talk your talk. You know what I'm saying? I'll support you any way I can, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is the thing that I don't think people don't understand. If you look at last year, they took the best player available, didn't they? Right?
Right. I mean, a lot of picks, but especially.
I'm just saying, but let's just start with the first one. They took the best player available, right?
Mm-hmm.
But was it the best player available for need?
Was it?
That's
what?
the pattern. It was best player available for need.
Oh, yeah.
That's the pattern, right? We needed a safety real bad. There was not one worthy of being taken with the 7th pick. We also needed another offensive tackle. So they took the best player available for need. Go to the next round. I didn't think we really needed no damn D tackles, right? And then when they took them, it died on me what they were saying. Hey, these other guys ain't staying healthy. These other guys aren't producing the way that we would like to see production coming out. And then they did it again. Took best player available for need. We had linebackers up there we could have took. We didn't take them because we had Jamie Collins and we had picked up Ellis Anzalone. But they thought they were going to re-sign Jared Davis, and he said, after this, I need a new change of scenery after what I just dealt with this guy.
Yeah.
But again, another pick, best player available for need. And then you come back to that next pick, that 3rd round pick. Another player, best player available for the need. That's the pattern, people. Y'all keep looking at these draft things as if though there's no pattern to it. It's always been the same pattern for him. Best player available for need. And when you look at the DN position, when you still got Austin Bryant, when you still got Julian Ocore, Romeo Core, they brought back that guy, Laminaire. I'm drawing a blank on his first name, but Laminaire.
Yeah.
They brought back Charles Harris. That's 5 pass rushers right there where you can easily see that those were brought here for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? Derek Burns can play outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you bring in this guy and Jared Davis to play inside with Ellis Anzalone. They're not looking at an edge rusher like that. You know, now you go to the safeties. Who feeling hype right now about Will Harris? Who feeling hype right now about Jalen Elliott? Who feeling hype right now about Brady Breeze, CJ Moore? The only safety you're excited about is Tracy Walker. That's it. And so to me, if you're still following the same pattern of best player available for need, I don't see how a lot of these other options are available.
Yeah, me neither. Because, I mean, well, that and just simply put, Kyle Hamilton's the best player in the NFL draft class. Like, he's the best player in the class, in my opinion. He has less red flags. He has a higher ceiling than a lot of guys, and he's a relatively safe option.
Right.
And like I was talking earlier, like Kayvon Thibodeau, I think his ceiling is incredibly high, but like the character concerns do bother me because, I mean, if you're not on the field, it doesn't matter how talented you are.
And what did Dan Campbell say? He don't want no turds.
No, he didn't.
So if he don't want no turds, and we already got character issues, you had a guy who gave his word that he's doing everything at the combine to shut up his critics, and then dip because the day is too long. And then on top of that, you have people questioning, does he play hard every single down? Yeah. Does he go hard every single down? No. None of this stuff, no. It doesn't line up what they have stuck to what they said. We would get gritty, scrappy players who want to be here on this team. They're not going for people who are question marks across every board. They're just not doing it. And to me, you know, people cannot like the Kyle Hamilton. Would I be shocked? Like, I don't think Jags is taking Aiden Hutchinson. I don't. Yeah. I think they're taking the tackle from NC State, whose name I can't pronounce. I'm not even going to play with it. How you say it?
Ikem Ekwonu.
Yeah, that guy right there. You got it. Nailed it. Gold stars for you. It just don't make sense, man. Not for what they need. You're talking about having somebody who can come in and fix a problem for them. They went out and got Sewell not because he was just, oh, he's a generational talent. You can't miss on him. You can miss on any draft pick, but they knew that it was the best player available for their need.
Yeah.
So this is the stuff that people were not paying attention to. Look at his draft. We all didn't think he was going to take another running back. He did.
That is true. So how do you see the first round playing out then? Like, or not the first round, like how do you see the first, let's say 5 picks up to 97? Like positional wise, player wise, whatever.
I think the first one is Kyle Hamilton.
I agree.
The second one is a little shaky because I feel like if there's still a pass rusher that they like a Mafe or somebody that can come in and play a versatile role for them, I still think they'll go that route. But I think they go linebacker with that pick, and I think with that pick at 34, they go receiver, and then I think they come back around that first third round pick, you might see your next pass rusher. And then that last third round pick, honestly, I think they trade that pick out to pick up an additional 4th so that they can then turn around and add themselves another linebacker. I just don't see them. I feel like they're going to go either 2 linebackers or 2 DBs in this draft. It's one of them 2. We doubling up on one of them 2 positions.
Yeah, I think so too. I wouldn't be shocked if we double up at safety, though, because like you said, who's excited for Will Harris or Jalen Elliott or CJ Moore? Like Tracy Walker is the only guy I feel like can reliably start for your defense. Like I think Will Harris could maybe sub in for like some packages, right? I think he has a role maybe as like a slot cornerback back up to AJ Parker, but like you need safety help. And if Tracy Walker goes down, and even if we have Kyle Hamilton, like we're in the same situation. If we didn't draft Kyle Hamilton and Tracy stays healthy, like we're still only really 1 safety deep. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we double up at safety in this class because we need the depth pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can take Aiden Hutchinson if you told Jeff Okudah already he's playing safety. And if you're telling Jeff Okudah, hey, you're playing safety, all right, cool. I was like, all right, cool. Like I'll take that. But I think they're not at this point. When you look at Jesse, like these people are produced last year. They didn't just bring them back for nothing. They are produced. The only one who name I can't think of produced was Eric Banks. And Joel Heath probably didn't produce, but Romeo Core produced. He was hurt, but he produced. Julian produced. Jesse produced. You even got production out of Austin Bryant. You got production out of Charles Harris. And make no mistake, as much as I love Tracy Walker, he's not a flawless prospect at the safety position. I can show you game after game where I'm like, you got to make that play. It's nobody who can make the play but you.
Yeah, I agree. But like you said, like Charles Harris had 7.5 sacks. I think Aleem had 3 sacks and was a first-team all-rookie. Romeo Cora had like 30 pressures in 4 games. Julian had 5 sacks. Jesse Lemonier had like 2.5. Levi got a couple sacks here and there. Austin Bryant had 4 sacks. Like, I mean, they weren't necessarily elite production, but they were certainly good production. I mean, you can certainly live with a bunch of guys ranging between 4 to 8 sacks a season.
Yeah. I mean, and plus, like I said, I don't. To me, this is the first year where I'm just like, whoever you want as a Lions fan, I hope they get. And I hope you're honest about saying, oh, I wanted him. And then if it don't work out, be honest and be like, hey, I really wanted that guy and he didn't work out. Don't make a bunch of excuses for him and stuff. I had a bunch of people who tried to tell me like a couple of days ago, oh, Luke, you were so high on Isaiah Simmons. He ain't done nothing. I'm like, what the hell are you talking? What do y'all watch? What do y'all be looking at? Do y'all just go and look at stats and then say, hey, that's what it is? And then say, that's why this didn't happen. I'm like, but anybody who looked at him can tell he was a night and day player from his first year to his second year. Mm-hmm. And the difference was in the first year, they didn't really use him. And in the second year, they were like, well, let him ball. And he did. And then when I look at this year, I'm telling you right now, there's some players that some people want that I don't think they realize what they asking for. And I don't think that they understand that the people that they're rooting for are only being hyped up at this point because they ran fast 40s. You have to do your homework on these people and see not only the good that they do, but where can they get things fixed at, right? Even N'Kobe Dean. I was just watching the video with Brett Colomer, who was just showing N'Kobe Dean and his major flaws.
I watched the video like an hour ago.
And listen, I was gonna do a video. I was gonna do a video on N'Kobe, but I just don't care. And the reason I haven't did a video like that yet is because no matter how much I can show a person piece by piece, most of the time they just don't want to see it. If I like it, I like them. But to me, I like the players that I like because I see where they fit into what we're doing, and that's how I do it. And I think when you look at the Lions, they fall in the same formula. I think to me, if we had did this draft the way I wanted to, the Lions probably not even picking this high. They're not, because they would have had enough talent to address a bunch of needs. You'd have had your safety because Isaiah Simmons would have been your safety.
Yeah,
and you would have had him and Tracy Walker.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't like looking in the chat as I'm reading and I'm listening. I'm like, are we just gonna make stuff up?
Yeah. No, there's definitely some false narratives out there. But I mean, like you were talking about earlier, like, I mean, everybody can like who they want, right? I mean, everybody's gonna have a different opinion, but just you gotta stick with what you gotta stick with what you say. You can't go back on it. And there's a lot of people doing that I've seen. Because like, I mean, I was somebody who was pretty high on Levi when he was drafted, and like he didn't do a whole lot. Like he was okay, but he didn't really do a whole lot. But I'm not going back and saying like, oh, I never liked the pick. Like I was a fan of it. I think he can still be pretty good. But like, yeah, people are just, I think people like fitting stories to fit the narrative that they have in their head. And we've gotten pretty good at skewing facts with statistics and kind of misleading.
Don Bird says Lou Square, he been pinpoint accurate. I love my critics, because to me, my critics are the same ones who can point out when I'm wrong, because I do be right majority of the time. And when I'm wrong, I have a problem saying I'm wrong. I've made videos where I literally said I was wrong, and y'all still say I don't say I'm wrong. But the reality is this: when you look at me and my prediction on draft picks, I got one wrong, which I also told you, you do not let a dead man walk and take a pick. I also said it don't take 3 years to change a culture. I also said Matt Patricia should be fired after the first season, and everybody said he needs at least 3. Everything that I pointed out that I'm right about, we ignore. They like to point about Khalil Hodge. Khalil Hodge didn't get drafted. Okay. What's the big deal? You know who else didn't get drafted? A lot of NFL Hall of Fame players that I can go down the list and name. Doesn't mean anything. The reality is this: when I go through and I do my research, I'm doing it based on our team, not based on what Scout said, not based on what ESPN said, not based on statistics, not based on what CBS Sports said or 97.1 the ticket said, but with my own 2 eyes said. And then I come back and I present it to you with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I show people in real time what's going on. I show them like, hey, this is what he's really good at. You can see this on every tape. This right here you need to work on. That's bad. This is unexplainable. This cannot happen. This is why this is so ugly. This shouldn't happen, and it cannot happen. And there have been very few prospects that I have went through where I had a hard time finding ugly on. Kyle Hamilton being one and Mafi being another.
Yeah.
It happens. But the reality is this. It says you are 70% wrong. You was wigging on us talking 2 D linemen back in. What are you talking about? I did not. Don, I don't understand how in the hell you come up with some of this stuff you come up with, but you just be making it up as you go too. When we drafted and Ryder, you remember that draft show, right?
Yeah.
When I was like, I don't think we needed the 2 D tackles. But when I got to looking at it, I said, well, I went back. I slapped on the next day I came back. I said, I understand why they took him. I mean, he was at least hustling his ass off and chasing people down the field, with something we're not going to see how to take from our other guys. And I also pointed out that, look, to me, I mean, Levi, I'm still on because I didn't have him rated higher than the guy from UCLA, again, with a weird name I could not pronounce. Whatever his name is. You know what I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about, but I'm not going to do that one.
Yeah, that name right there I couldn't pronounce. But I thought that guy from UCLA was a better interior defensive lineman. I understood why they took Levi. I'm still not acting like, oh, I called it or nothing. That's different. And then when we took Aleem, I went immediately while we was on stream, and I said, I see why they took him. I said, I see exactly why they took him. He's moving. He's shown the ability to win the one-on-one battles and so forth and so on. But the two picks that I told you early on that I really wanted the Lions to have, and you can challenge me on this if you want to, because it's still on tape, was Amon-Ra St. Brown and Derek Barnes. I stood on the hill for them too, and I will continue standing on the hill for them too. But it's not about me being right or wrong in this. It's easy for somebody to be a critic when they don't have anything to put out themselves. But I can go through, and I tell people all the time, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. I keep receipts. I just don't get petty enough to point them out.
Yeah, and I mean, like you were saying earlier about using your own eyes to see what you're looking at. Like that's why I'm a big fan personally of Malik Willis, because from what I've seen, and I'm not like trying to discredit, like, okay, he does have problems. Like I'll be the first person to tell you Malik Willis needs to get better. I'll be the first person to tell you Malik Willis needs to be more consistent when reading the field. He needs to definitely improve on some of his attributes. But at the end of the day, I also see a lot of really good things out of Malik Willis, right? And Dr. Detroit was talking about JT O'Sullivan or whatever his name is. I can't think of it. He did like 6 or 7 videos on Malik Willis. And the ones that I watched, like, I mean, I'm not going to say it didn't partially sway my opinion because I think he's somebody whose opinion is pretty credible. But, I mean, Malik Willis made some phenomenal plays, like plays that not a lot of quarterbacks can make in the NFL, and he's doing it at college with nobody around him. I mean, nobody else from that Liberty team is going to be drafted, and he being Malik Willis is just somebody that consistently made plays on the run, consistently made plays, when they needed to be made. The one that I watched most recently was that North Texas game where he came back from injury and, I mean, led a 98-yard drive down the field, like for a touchdown against, I mean, not necessarily a top FBS defense, but like a pretty decent college football team while his offensive line was getting beat with 3-man pressures. Like the play Malik Willis got hurt on versus North Texas, it was a 3-man rush versus a 5-man protection, and Malik Willis barely got to the back of his drop before he was sacked. Like he was dealing with no offensive line help, his wide receivers weren't getting all that open. He missed one deep ball, but like he was getting no help, and he made something out of nothing, which is a big thing that I was looking for in a quarterback, which is why I like Malik Willis. And I think he needs to improve. I think he needs to get a lot better at a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of people are undermining his potential because of what he's at right now, when you're not drafting Malik Willis for where he is right now. Just like the Bills didn't draft Josh Allen for his floor. The Chiefs didn't draft Patrick Mahomes for his floor. They draft these guys for their ceilings. And at his ceiling, Malik Willis, in my opinion, can be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
See, for me, I look at this draft and I just say, this draft is perfectly designed to solve all of the Lions' problems defensively. And to me, I'm not willing to mortgage any one of those players for a quarterback who cannot come in and help this team immediately. I have been on record saying, hey, if you are going to tell me you're moving on from Jared Goff and you're going to start Malik Willis, take him. Take him then. But whoever you take in the first 5 picks, because you're going to have 5 picks in the top 100, they need to be on the freaking field. Yeah. And I'm not just talking about this. We don't have the luxury of taking a player to sit. We don't have to. No. We don't have that luxury. We have to take people who can come in immediately, have impact, and play for us. If they're not doing that, why are we bringing them here? Because then nobody thought that the Cardinals, after they took Josh Rosen, would end up being high enough to take Kyler Murray, right? Mm-hmm. And this happens more often than people think, but no. If you're going out in this draft and you're taking a guy like Malik Willis, I want the Malik Willis at his ceiling, not, he could be, right? Because to me, the last person I could think of who had ceiling was Mitchell Trubisky. And you know, you end up getting what you got. But the reality is, this draft is perfectly designed to fix the problems that you have. You have a run defense that was terrible last year. Everybody talk about pass rush, but we were getting after the quarterback. We were getting at them. We were putting pressure on the quarterback. We've had coverage sacks at times.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, we were getting after the quarterback, and they were doing it through a lot of scheme ways.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're taking Malik Willis at 2, fine. Take him at 2. But he better be on the field. Because if he's not on the field, it's a waste of a pick for me. It doesn't make no sense for me to have him just let him chill.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like I'm honestly torn because I really like Malik Willis's ceiling. But like you said, I don't think the Lions are at the point where they can draft Malik Willis because they have so many other needs. Like you said, that run defense, right? You need safeties, you need linebackers, you need defensive players to fix the defense and not necessarily to fix the pass rush because Aaron Glenn schemed solid pass rush a season ago. Like, I mean, it wasn't top 10, but it was certainly a pass rush that you could win with. And looking at next year's class, like, I mean, I don't know where you have the Lions being ranked, but I would put them next year anywhere between 15 and 21. Somewhere in that range, I think, is where they're going to land. Mm-hmm. And I mean, next year's quarterback class isn't all that bad. And you still have the option next year, if you really want to, of letting him sit, of letting that quarterback sit, because Jared Goff's on the roster until the end of 2023.
Right.
So, I mean, even if you go into next season, and I mean, this is obviously way far out in the future, and these rankings are going to change, but I know there's a lot of people that like Hendon Hooker. He'll probably be available middle of the first round. Grayson McCall is somebody that a lot of people like, will probably be available middle of the first round. Like, there's some talented quarterbacks up and down the board, like DJ Uiagalelei. Like, he was projected to be a number 1 overall pick after like 2 games. If he has a good season with Clemson, he's going to shoot up these draft boards. Like, next year's quarterback class will give the Lions, in my opinion, an option to get their signal caller of the future. And it'll still give them that luxury of sitting him for a year without sacrificing, like you said, almost the perfect scenario this year for the Detroit Lions to go out and fix a lot of the problems on their defense and fix a lot of the key issues in their team in general.
So, yeah, I mean, if there was ever a draft to do it, this is it. Mm-hmm. You know, we need linebackers. You can definitely find them here, right? Like from like all the way up until maybe the 5th round, you can find linebackers. Safeties is not as deep as I would like them to be, but you know, you can find safeties later in this draft too, right? Mm-hmm. But I follow patterns, right? Like, I'm good at my job because I know how to do the job the way it needs to be done. And one of the things that I always do is find the pattern. What is the pattern that is leading to these results? And the pattern has been taking best player available for need. Mm-hmm. And right now we have a very big need at safety. And they could have easily went out and got Tyrann Mathieu. They could have went out and got Marcus Williams. They could have went out and added Devin McCourty. I mean, they had options that they could have went out and got. Yet they're not touching them. Why? They went out. You can still go out and add linebackers, but why are they specifically staying away from that position? The only safety they brought back were their own people. Why? And then on top of it, when you come back the next year, we as a fan base got to stop just thinking that the only way we can get talent is if we're picking in the top 5.
Yeah.
The Steelers don't think that. I remember there's an article that came out where Mike Tomlin said to Chase Young, "You're a great player, but I don't never want to be in a position to take a player like you." In other words, I want to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like you said, like the safety position, like Kyle Hamilton, I think should be the pick at number 2, and I think will be. But if you want to wait on safety, like 2nd round, you can get Lewis Cine or Jaquan Brisker. I think Verone McKinley is a good option in the 3rd. Same with Smoke Monday. I think JT Woods and Bubba Bolden are really good safeties. I'm high on both of them. Like, you can get safety anywhere in this class, not necessarily at the ceiling of Kyle Hamilton, but you can get good quality players at every position of need for the Lions in this class. Safety is relatively deep. Edge, I think, is super deep because you can get Maffa, you can get Ajabo, you can get Jackson and Ibaketi at the second, maybe the third round. I even think the Lions might and could address defensive line again with Michael Brockers getting up there in age, right? Logan Hall is pretty good. Fedarian Mathis is a really good player. Haskell Garrett made some good plays for the Buckeyes. At linebacker, I mean, Devin Lloyd, Nakobe Dean, Kristen Harris, Quay Walker, Chad Muma, Leo Chanel, Damone Clark, like all of these guys would improve the Lions linebacking core.
That's what I'm saying. It's a perfect storm for the Lions. It's the perfect, like, to just mortgage a pick based on someone's potential. Oh, it's so high. But what about when it's low? What about when it don't work out? What about, you know who else had potential? Jamarcus Russell, Andre Ware. A lot of these people had potential and it didn't work out. I remember the Lions were screaming they wanted Tua. I mean, and Ryder, I'm not making this up. We would spend hours in the chat talking on stuff where I'm like, I don't see why they so hype about Tua when I don't see all these things. Everybody, but then all of a sudden, and I keep saying it because I want people to know, the only person who was pounding the table for Justin Herbert was Micro Mike. The rest of the people wanted Tua, and now they want to try to switch up. Like, we could have took. No, I keep receipts.
Right.
I just don't want to get petty. These are the same people who wanted Stafford gone, who said Stafford not a winner, who said Stafford gonna go over there to the Rams and he gonna suck and he not gonna do nothing. And then what happened? Stafford goes over and win the Super Bowl, and them same people now want to say stuff like, "Oh, well, Stafford not on this team anymore. Let's move on." Yeah, now you want to move on because you don't want to discuss these false claims that you made that made you look stupid. And at the end of the day, if you look at those patterns, you can find out how to not to look stupid. But the reality is this. They literally turned around. And after turning around and seeing all these things happening, those same people don't come back and say, well, I probably misevaluated this. I probably misevaluated that. And that's where the problem gets cloudy for me. Why take the second best option or the third best option when you can get the first best option? We could have took the second best option at the tackle position. We could have took the second best option at linebacker position. You have to be able to try to go out and get the best player at their position. And if you can succeed in doing that, whether you're picking 1, 2, 15, or 30, that's all you have to do. Everything else just doesn't matter, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think you are 100% right. And I've seen a lot of people recently say like, okay, like the Lions they're not a good roster, which I mean, again, just isn't really all that true. Like Jeff Okudah, I think the jury's still out because we haven't really seen enough of him, in my opinion. But Amani played at an all-pro level a season ago.
And most fans wanted him gone.
Yeah,
you remember all the messages we was getting about get rid of Amani, he trash, blah blah. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. And Amani legitimately played at an all-pro level a season ago. AJ Parker was a great slot cornerback. Jerry Jacobs was a great undrafted free agent. Efi was, I mean, he had ups and downs. He had injury concerns, but he was not a bad football player. Tracy Walker, like you said, has problems, but is a good football player. Derek Barnes in limited snaps played very well. Jared Davis is somebody that a lot of people hate, but I don't understand that one because Jared Davis was our most productive linebacker when he was in Detroit.
Yep.
Far and away the most productive linebacker in Detroit. No matter how you want to spin it. Like Julian produced, Romeo produced, Charles Harris produced, Aleem produced. Like you might not have a top 10 player at a position on defense, but you certainly have some good football players here. And you don't necessarily need the best football players at every single position to be successful. Like the Chiefs went to the AFC Championship with a horrendous defense. Mm-hmm. And the Lions have a better defense, I'd say on paper, than I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm sure I can go through and find at least 6-7 different rosters that have a worse defense than the Detroit Lions. And then you go to the offensive side, like the offensive line is really good. Right there. I mean, I wouldn't touch the offensive line if I was the Detroit.
I wouldn't either. I'm seeing a lot of those conversations come up with people like, oh, draft the tackle to turn him into a guard so we can.
No, that's just dumb.
Why?
Like
Why
Jason Kabinda is a serviceable fullback. TJ Hawkinson, when he's healthy, I'd say he's a top 5 tight end if he's being used. Like this wide receiver core, sure, there's not a Tyreek Hill or a Devontae Adams, but you can win with that wide receiving core.
They didn't have a Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams on the Rams.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like you had a slot receiver who schematically was schemed open and got out there and made plays. You didn't have to go out and do a lot of these things. And that's what I'm saying. We keep trying to do the copycat league. Everybody gets so stuck in the past on what happened, but they don't really look at the whole picture. They don't look at it in context and say, hey, nobody looked good under Patricia. I keep asking that question. Who really looked good under Matt Patricia? Even when he brought his guys here, they didn't look good under him. And the reality is this. He couldn't get what we needed to get out of these people. And to me, the offensive side of the ball, the fact that they brought back both those damn backup quarterbacks is very telling. The fact that when you look at this receiving core, it's generated with mostly route runners, with 2 speedsters, with Raymond and Sharp. Mm-hmm. And they are still sticking to the script. They're still sticking to the script. But when I go back and I look at things and I say, man, one of the greatest defenses of all time was the 2000 Ravens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's their top pass rusher?
Haloti Ngata?
No.
I genuinely, I wouldn't even
go and look at the roster. Go and look at the roster for the 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense. Go and look at it. I'm telling you, when you see these things, it's about the coach. I believe in Aaron Glenn. I was scared that we was going to lose him this year. I told people, hey, if this defense keep trending upward, we may lose Aaron Glenn. Luckily, we didn't. But look at the 2000 Baltimore Ravens defensive roster. Look who their top pass rusher is. I bet you most people don't even know who the hell it is unless you're a diehard fan.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, Rob Brunette, no clue.
I'm just saying. But if that's not recent enough, you already pointed out the people who didn't have good defenses and showed up and performed. And you know, these are the same people who would tell you that, oh, Stafford had a super team, but not tell you that, yeah, the team that Jared Goff had was way more talent loaded than the team that Stafford had.
Yeah.
This is just hating 101. You know what I'm saying? There are some people that no matter what the truth is, just to be right, they would be like, oh, I'll say whatever. No, just keep it 100. Look at who their top pass rusher is.
Yeah, it's Rob Brunette. I've never heard of Rob Brunette. But like even looking at like this defense, like you said, one of the best defenses of all time. They had one dude with 10.5, one guy with 7, who I believe is a linebacker, and one with 6.5. Other than that, you had 3 and 2 for your starters.
And then look at the safeties.
Rod Woodson and I don't even know what that is. Christian McAllister's up there.
But if you notice what this is the difference between trying to say, let's go out and get this person because he's going to have this effect. No, it's a unit. Every good defenses that I know are a unit.
Yeah.
Like every last one of my notes is a unit. So to me, you know, I've always believed that no matter who you take at that pick, I don't care what draft it is. It could be this draft before last, draft next year. If you're taking a player in the first round, they need to be on the freaking field. There's no reason to take a player in the first round who's not getting on the damn field. Yeah. I don't care what they need to be on the field. Yeah. If you're taking like the fact that we think that the Lions have the ability to just act as if though we can skip over taking the guy who can help us right now because we need him to sit. It's ludicrous to me. If they take Aiden Hutchinson, he better be on the freaking field. Mm-hmm. If they take you, Ryder, you need to be on the field.
Yeah.
Anybody that's not on the field, I got a problem with.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking like just to your point of like they play as a unit, like how many, I mean, this is arguably the greatest defense of all time. I know Ray Lewis and Rod Woodson. I mean, how many of these guys went to the Hall of Fame? How many of these guys went to a Pro Bowl or were all pros? There was, according to this, there was 2 Pro Bowlers, 3 Pro Bowlers on this defense, and 1 All-Pro. they weren't star-studded necessarily, right? They didn't have a bunch of future Hall of Fame talent. They had I don't want to say the corpse of Rod Woodson, but they had an older Rod Woodson and Ray Lewis. But they played good defense as a unit and as a group, which made them the best of all time. It wasn't because they were star-studded. It's because they worked together, and
They played as a unit. It's another thing they had in common. I looked at this stat the other day, and it blew my mind. If you look at the team stats from 2000, they had something in common that I noticed with all good defenses, and it wasn't a sack. It was turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
They were generating turnovers. They were getting off the field, and then the offense had to do their job. When everybody talks about going out and get these great quarterbacks, they forget that people like Aaron Rodgers has been to one Super Bowl. He never even sniffed the second Super Bowl yet.
Mm-hmm.
Not even sniffed it. People like Patrick Mahomes, who comes to a team that's solely already designed for him to succeed, makes it to 2 Super Bowls already, and them are the 2 games he played the worst in. And people will go and look at it and say, well, statistically, no, the first one he got better in the 4th as it went on, and in the second one, he just was atrocious. There's just no way of getting around it. He single-handedly lost them. Then you come to the playoff game, he gave that game away too. But because people play fantasy football and they fall in love with these people, they don't get hypercritical of them. I do. I look at the patterns and see what's going on, and I be fair with it. When somebody's not playing right, I call them out. I say, look, bro, you're not doing this right. I don't like how you blocking. I remember we kept Theo Riddick for years because fans was like, he can catch up the backfield, but can he run? What's the point of having a receiver at the backfield if he can't run it?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But I think that's all we gotta go. I gotta go to practice pretty soon, so I gotta cut it off here. Thank you, Luke, very much for coming on. Thank you for all the people that came out today. We had like 90 some viewers at some point, which is a lot for a random Sunday when I didn't schedule the stream until 12:35. So thank you all so very much for coming out. If you have not liked the video yet, please go down and do so. I'd be very much appreciative for that. Thank you for the donations today. Very much appreciated as well. But with all that being said, that is all we have for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.